Right.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for attending tonight's presentation. The one that I'm going to be presenting today is going to be on working with difficult clients. The reason why I chose this topic is because I say it's one of the most crucial components, especially not all clients are easy to work with. There's some that you hit it off immediately, and then there's other clients where you have to work a little harder for them to open up or work with them in general. There's a lot of different criteria when it comes working with difficult clients, and I'll be sharing some of my experiences as well as some of the things that I've learned along the way with working with difficult clients. So I'm gonna go ahead and do a quick activity. So just put a quick disclosure there that the images that I have here are just your reaction on comfort level is not to insult anyone in any way, shape, or form. So we have two scenarios. Spending 30 minutes with either an emotionally frustrated client or an angry cat, which situation feels easier for you to manage?
Oh my goodness, 30 minutes. Probably the frustrated client.
What would that be easier and you feel more
Because I feel
comfortable?
like the communication is easier to help them for me to help them calm down. And a cat, you can try to hold it, but and cuddle it, but it might just scratch the heck out of you anyway.
Yeah. Yep, that's true. So why is working with difficult clients is important? So working with difficult clients, they're the ones that often need the most help, and they're also the ones that are most shy about asking for help. They also are a little bit more on the egotistic side of things, where they want to not rely on help. They're more of like want to do it myself. I don't need any assistance, even though they do need the help. But also that builds on the coaches and advisor side of things. It does build more skill set because you actually know how to de-escalate these kind of situations, and also it builds your credibility because difficult clients are actually the ones that do the most referrals that I've seen, where when you work with someone who's very difficult, from my personal experience, I've worked with several difficult clients, and at the end of those meetings that I've had, a lot of them have referred me to talk to the other colleagues they have or family members, and they usually call in. Even they have the same accounts that they do, and they actually talk about me, and they're like, you know what, I'm gonna talk to my wife. I'm also gonna talk to my sister, and then also a neighbor who has the same account that I have, and I'm gonna ask them to go talk to you because you seem to know what you're doing, and you worked pretty well with me. So that's one of the big things as well. You do gain that credibility. The outcomes do improve. You do tend it's worth it when you have those very engaging conversations with difficult clients. Some of them, I would say, one group in particular is very difficult to work with is engineers. They are more on they want answers for everything. They want you to back it up with data, analytics, statistics. That's how they were trained in their career and the degree they were pursuing. So they kind of think that financial planning is the same idea, but in reality, it's a little bit of both. It's the behavioral and emotional side of things, but it's also the technical stuff. So it's a mix of two things, not really one or the other. As well, it does increase business sustainability. So you could have, I do know an advisor who has only engineers. That's their niche. They will just work with engineers only because they love working with these kind of clients. They like the difficulty of things, and it has been very rewarding for them. So that's definitely something you can think about along the lines. It also helps you learn when not to continue. So if this client has been too toxic, too difficult to work with, then at that point you already know they've crossed your boundaries and it's time to terminate this relationship. And finally, it creates stronger coaching client relationships. So that's something that's built over time. It's not something that's built overnight. So the root cause of difficult client behavior, some of the most common one is financial stress and anxiety. That could be through a divorce, loss of a family member, or being heavily in debt, shame, guilt, or past trauma. That could be in the form of past investment decisions they made. So let's say they invested in the 2008 or dot-com bubble and they lost a lot of money. That falls under past trauma where they don't feel too comfortable about investing. They may feel ashamed or guilt due to the debt they have and they don't really feel comfortable sharing it. Unrealistic expectations. You have that one client that wants to achieve everything and they want to make X amount of dollars, have X amount of dollars in a short amount of time, which is very unrealistic, especially when you take a deep dive into their numbers and you don't see really those goals they have match with the amount that the money that they're making. The lack of financial knowledge. You might have that one client that's starting out, they're fresh into finance. They might have heard it from a friend or a family member, and they got curious and they want to learn as much as they can, or they want to get some help on how to build their retirement nest egg and how that will look like in the next 20 to 40 years. Loss of control, that could be in the form of having a spending addiction where you are constantly spending, and that's even a more deeper cause that you can't control, and it has to do with something even deeper than just the spending itself, because that's the surface of the problem, but there's something much deeper underneath. And then mistrust of financial professionals. This is really common in the Hispanic community where they don't really trust financial professionals. So these type of clients do take a little bit more work to work with and kind of show them that you're here with good intentions. You're not here to sell them an insurance product or scam them in any way, shape, or form. So you do have to be a little bit more persuasive with these kind of clients. And the same thing applies with other ethnicities as well. So it's not just the Hispanic community that also distrusts financial professionals. Communication strategies. So there's a couple of ways you can work with clients that are difficult. So active listening, listen to what they have to say. Validate the emotions. So if they're expressing anger or frustration, validate that on your end. Use calm, neutral language. So even if the client is screaming at you, it's best to still stay composed and not be expressing that same energy back at them. Asking open-ended questions. This is the one where it does trigger some of these difficult clients to get upset or frustrated because they don't want to do a lot of thinking. They're hoping a solution immediately, which is not the case. And these open-ended questions are something that's very important and very crucial to understand their situation better and as to why they're here and they're asking for your help. Setting clear expectations. This could be in the form of the contract that you're going to give the client before you sign them on sessions. That could be what your boundaries are, what your level of expertise is, and what limitations you have. That way they know that these are things that you're not going to be helping them with, or you'll be referring those kind of areas to experts that you either know or they're going to have to seek their own experts in their area. Maintain professional boundaries. So this is like the code of ethics from AFC or CFP or any destination or license you have. So it's always crucial to still have that code of conduct, especially if there's that one client that's violating any of these code of conducts. It's always best to still stay on the ethical side of things. Focus on solutions, not blame. This comes to in the form of clients revealing the reasons why they're frustrated, why they're having a hard time opening up with finances. It's best to still keep that open communication and leave the doors open for them to feel safe, feel comfortable. That can be in the form of the environment, the way you're wording things, or asking the specific questions. And then when you have that one client that is escalating to the point that they're getting very aggressive, it's really good to have de-escalation skills so you can have control of the situation and not let it get out of hand. Managing the expectations and boundaries. Define the scope of the services early, as I mentioned before, with the contract that you'll have them sign and read over. Set realistic timelines and outcomes. That could be through the SMART goals. So probably you'll have a client create their SMART goals and what they want to accomplish, and then clarify roles and responsibilities. That could be you explaining, this is my expertise, this is what I'm limited to, and then if it's anything out of my scope, I have to refer you to someone else. And then lastly, document the expectations in writing. So that's the contract that I mentioned a few times, that's what the client would have as a copy, and you also have your copy, which will both be signed. So I'm going to do another activity for the audience in regards to working with a difficult client. So the question I have in regards to this situation is, how would you handle this situation? So Maria's 42. She recently divorced. She's overwhelmed by debt and retirement planning. However, she frequently interrupts during the sessions. She avoids doing the homework and expresses frustration and skepticism about your advice. So some of the deep causes of this behavior is through financial stress and fear of making mistakes, emotional exhaustion from the recent life event, and the lack of trust in financial professionals due to past experiences. What are some of the ways that you can help Maria feel a little bit more comfortable in regards to addressing the three underlying causes of this behavior?
Um, I think one thing could be letting her know that she's not the only person that has debt, and that just understanding that that does cause a lot of stress and fear for people. And sometimes they're ashamed, and now she feels like she's doing it alone. So you can be that person to help her walk through that process, because no longer, she no longer has a partner. So that's one of the things. And just, you know, being a good listener can really help somebody who's just exhausted because they've had one thing after another when they go through a divorce. It can be just so overwhelming that she just might need somebody to be a sounding board and to help her think of just the one next thing she needs to do next, instead of the overwhelming everything that she wants to accomplish. So focusing.
Thank you. That
Um,
was a really good response and addressing the situation. Anything else you would like to add?
and I think that by doing those things, that will help build the trust and rapport that you need to with her to help her make the strides that she needs to make to move forward, because 42 isn't too late to start thinking about retirement and paying off your debt and all of those things, and you can do all of them kind of simultaneously.
S- so next we're gonna go ahead and review any do's and don'ts. So on the left side is gonna be some do's. So listen actively and stay present. Validate emotions without agreeing to inappropriate behavior. Set and reinforce clear expectations and boundaries. Make sure to document anything that's either the client's doing anything inappropriate, or as we learned in week one about the code of ethics, about if the times where you have to break confidentiality due to self-harm or uh, through themselves or others, or any kind of threats that they're presenting, or even doing illegal activities. That's something to just keep in mind. And then for the don'ts, take behavior personally and react emotionally. So even if the client is yelling at you and they're insulting you, which I have had those kind of cases, you don't reply back and insult them. You just still stay composed and stay professional at all times. Don't argue or become defensive. So don't try to be outbeating them in the argument, which won't even it won't not only help you, but it will also make things worse with the client. Don't overpromise results or timelines. So don't provide any guarantees. That's something I've learned in the FINRA and SEC rules. Don't guarantee on future performance and all that stuff. So that's something just to keep an open mind on. And then ignore boundary violations. So if the client is trying to sway you to look the other way, that's not something you should be doing. You should just stay towards the code of conduct. And then lastly, don't continue an unhealthy client relationship indefinitely. So if this client is pretty much impossible to work with after multiple times if you mentioned that, this is not my expertise, or, if you don't behave, this is gonna happen. We're gonna end the relationship and the sessions at this point. So just something to keep in mind. And then that kind of leads us to the next slide about when to continue versus when to end the relationship. So continuing the relationship with clients consists of they provide open feedback and guidance. They respect the boundaries that you've kind of mentioned out at the beginning, and as well as the expectations of your expertise and what will be getting accomplished through all these sessions. The communication remains professional. The client is doing the homework, they're making changes, even if it's slow and steady. They're working hard to make that progress happen. And they're starting to see that their values and goals are being validated and they're aligning to what they want to accomplish. And that could be in the form of what they want to do after they pay their debt. And then oh, I made a typo on my end here. So it's supposed to say when to end the relationship. So my apologies there. So that's gonna be the one on the right. So don't be disrespectful or abusive. If the client starts to be disrespectful and abusive, that's the time to continue ending that relationship. Boundaries are being violated. The client is still setting very unrealistic expectations and goals that they don't really align with their current situation. The client refuses accountability and they're playing the blame game on you or the spouse or just about anyone but themselves. The relationship is causing you stress that's affecting your mental health or your well-being. And then the lastly, which is the one I mentioned before about the ethical standards, that's something as well. If they're asking you to do unethical things or telling you to look the other way, that's the time for you to make that decision to end the relationship. That will be the end of the presentation. I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about working with difficult clients. So I'll be going on ahead and answer any questions you all have. Thank you again.